Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and generate more leads, more sales, more profits. More importantly, so you can go out and have a bigger reach, a bigger impact, and make a bigger contribution. Like Dr. Jeremy Weiss, which is how one of the connections that Dr. Scott and I had, another good friend of ours, Vinny Fisher, who was a client of mine many years ago, got us actually connected along with Jeremy. What you should know about Dr. Scott Gray, who's going to share with you the perfect presentation and what he's done in the medical industry to have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day system in place to get patients and or clients, right? That I think will be immensely valuable for all your business. More importantly than even that, is that he's someone I admire and respect as a husband to an amazing lady named Jen. He's got two just beautiful angels and daughters that are just a light of his world and his family. He runs an amazing family business. Like his mom and dad work with him, his brothers work with him. He's got some best friends that have worked with him for some time. I mean, it's just an amazing culture. To be working with someone like Dr. Scott, who's got an amazing respect and mastery of marketing and mastery and respect of selling. For us coming together, it's been like those values: enhance, appreciate, utilize, refer, all of it, right? Hyper growth, teamwork, collaboration, and making a bigger impact. And if I had to pick one word that defines Dr. Scott, it's impact, right? He's a giver. Even in there's certain conversations, real conversations we had where he has given too much of himself and will, take care of everybody else around him beyond him. And, we've had to do some check-ins on that, but I think it speaks a lot to his character. A couple of the credentials I just want to make sure to have you understand. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's built and sold multiple successful chiropractic and decompression practices. When somebody's launching a practice and getting mastery, that's one thing. He's had 9 clinics and sold most of them. Even with the clinics he still runs, he spends less than 2 hours a week in those clinics. He really has mastered building a business and being the CEO or chairman of his business to work on his business. And it's allowed him now to do all kinds of strategic partnerships and cool things. He now owns Gray Marketing Enterprises, as well as a company called Stem Cell One. And he's helped start stem cell clinics in multiple states, including good old Arizona here. He's a partner in a company called Regenerative Health Centers of Florida and CellSpark. He focuses on building teams. He's amazing at team building, and he attracts people smarter and better than him. He'll say that, but he still loves to play in the marketing sandbox, which is, again, just a gift and a blessing and why we get along so well. He provides done-for-you marketing for the medical profession. And again, just somebody, if you haven't met him before, I'm sure you're going to be inspired. You're going to be excited. You're going to be like, wow, how could you do this in what is typically like you have to go to the office kind of model? He's a genius, and he's also become actually one of my best friends as well. And so, Dr. Scott, welcome, my friend, my brother, and excited for you to be sharing. So why don't you take it away on the perfect presentation, your 24-hour system to get new patients and clients.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Good to see some old friends too. Just want to say hi to Eric and Joe. Awesome to see you guys on here. But today I want to talk to you about something that really changed my life, and that was figuring out how to really leverage time to get freedom. That's how I was able to create, multiple practices and all that, not working in them and everything. So what I'm going to share with you is what's called the perfect presentation. I teach this. I've taught this to hundreds of doctors. Literally just came from a seminar in Orlando this morning where I was teaching doctors similar stuff, and want to share it with you today. And I think that it'll really help you in your business for multiple reasons that you'll see here. So with the perfect presentation, it's when you craft this, we call it the best show. And I'm a big Disney fan. I won't get into all that, but I have an obsession with Disney, but they're all about best show, right? Giving the best show with everything you do. when you do that, you're going to have that consistent flow of customers and clients coming in on autopilot every single month, right? So a lot of people are trying to figure out like, what thing can I do this week? What thing can I do next week? As opposed to having something running regularly that we know is going to convert when we have the perfect presentation. So, and when you have it done right, when you set it up, like I'm going to show you here in just a second, you're going to be able to change the way that your audience thinks, acts, and feels. And that's what you have to do. We have to change the way they think so that they will feel a certain way, so they'll take action, right? That's how you get the sale, the order, how you're going to be able to help them with what you do and what you can bring to them to improve their lives. So what I can do for you, I really believe that when you do this, you have the perfect message to your perfect market. You got that match at the right time. You have that auto conversion masterpiece that works whether you're presenting it live or not. I've done about 1,000 live presentations. That got old. And I'm sure a lot of you on here have done a lot of live presentations as well. And I wanted to figure out a way to multiply myself. How do I multiply myself, get myself out there? So I create the 24/7 salesman, the 24/7 presenter. And that's what we're going to go over here. So once you have that, all you have to do is find more sources of media. How can I get more traffic to this? Is it direct mail? Is it, Google? Is it, you just go down the list. A newspaper, you can use whatever media you want to drive people to this once you have it done, right? So just getting in front of as many people as possible, and you save a ton of time by going one to many, right? It's you going to, whether it's hundreds of people, thousands of people, millions of people, you now don't have to take all the time individually to go do those seminars like I did for years, for 15 years. So, and it gives you a lot of freedom, right? So it's given me a lot of freedom to be able to work wherever, whenever I want to, and all that good stuff. So you guys probably know who this is, right? Anyone, raise your hand if you know who this guy is. We've all seen him before, right? This is good old Billy Mays, right? And rest in peace, Billy, one of the best salesmen we've ever seen. But this guy created a perfect presentation to build a company that sold for $325 million by selling cleaners online, right? This guy, he did okay, right? And I'm guessing probably some of you, Joe, you were probably at that seminar that George was there, and probably a lot of you on here, but they sold over 100 million George Foreman grills, over 100 million of these things, because they figured out the perfect presentation. I know Dan knows the gentleman who put this whole thing together, and probably some of you on here do as well, but he said they would test this thing so much to figure out how to make it perfect. They literally found out that every time George took a bite of the sandwich, sales went up. So what they do, they made George take more bites, right? The more bites he took, the more grills they sold. So when I talk about the perfect presentation, I'm talking about the nuance. I'm talking about getting it literally perfect, right? So we're going to get into that process. This is Stephen K. Scott here, the guy that created the infomercial for the Total Gym, right? This thing's been running for years and years and years. A perfect presentation that sells something over and over and over again. And this thing had, over a 10-year run of the Total Gym commercial, and it's still going today. So we want you to have your perfect presentation. If you ignore it, you're always trying like those one-off things, like, oh, let's try this week, let's try that next week. Like, no, one of the things that I always appreciated about Dan Kennedy, I love Dan, and one of the things he always taught was, stop trying to, invent a brand new thing. He's like, get one thing that sells, get one thing that works, and do it over and over and over and over and over again until, you see the stats changed. But typically, with an OxyClean, with the George Foreman grill, you just get it perfect. You make some tweaks here and there, make George take a couple more bites, and you've got something that's going to sell for years and years for you. So if you don't do this, competition grabs more market share, because if they go out and find something consistent, they're going to get those consistent sales. So you may waste a ton of money, a ton of time driving people to seminars, ads, web pages that don't convert because you want to invent something new all the time. This is not about like doing a new thing all the time. It's about perfecting one thing So you avoid the marketing roller coaster is what I call, where, you know, it's like, oh, it's working real well. And then, hey, let's try this new thing. And oh, that didn't work. And let's try the new thing. I don't know if anyone's ever been on the marketing roller coaster before, but back in the day, before I really solidified, you know, one presentation that was going to, you know, really make millions and millions of dollars for my stem cell clinics, it was kind of an up and down thing. And then, you know, eventually with this method, we got it consistent. So I'm going to talk about 8 keys to the presentation. And so I'm going to go through each one of these in detail. So you don't have to get all these written down right now. So pre-event is the first thing. So there's the presentation, but there's everything leading up to the presentation, which many times is even more important. There's mental preparation. There's your big idea. There's reframing that has to take place. There's story or stories. And I'm going to show you how to build a story using humor in your presentation, as well as something called the callback. And then the last thing is rehearsal, right? Getting it perfect, getting it to that level. So let's dive into this. So the first one, let me just share a quick little movie scene here.
Sweet setup, Iceman. Nice one, nurse. Glenn, come here. You got to rush the net on defense. Don't be afraid of the ball.
No, it's Greg.
Huddle up, team. Huddle up. Come on.
Greg, not Glenn. Greg is afraid of the ball.
Come on. This is unexciting. Go for the ball. Here's what we got to do. We're getting cream, people.
Oh, Florence Nightingale over here and play a little defense.
Larry, I missed one shot.
It was a big shot.
Marvin, keep floating where you are. You're doing great. Danny, take the deep shots. Okay. Greg, nobody's expecting much out of you, so if I set you up with the ball, you think you can jump up and spike it? Yeah, I'd have to be pretty high, but yeah. I bet you would, Panama Red. All right, everybody look sharp. Greg, push the ball. Hey, come on! Let's go. Come on!
Thanks, Jack. Fire it up there, Spockers. Yes, sir.
All right, can't go wrong with Meet the Parents. So I had to throw something fun in there real quick. But look, I want to talk about the set before the spike, right? To be able to spike the ball, right, you've got to set it up there and get it up there so that you can close it. A lot of people talk about closing their presentation, right? Doing a presentation where people, you know, want to buy, you know, having that person that's ready to buy and ready to make that decision. There's a lot of things you have to do before. So typically there's a piece missing between the lead and the presentation. And I learned this from Kevin Nations and Kevin Hutto taught me this. Really great lead gen guys. And they talk about what they call the secret handshake. Basically, like, you have to set up the presentation like a setter in volleyball, right? You're gonna set it up so the closer can actually spike it down. Okay, so I want to talk about that set phase. So the set phase is, this is your origin story, right? You should be telling your prospect your origin story. Like, what was the problem? How and why did you solve it, right? This was one of the things I did with stem cell. As a chiropractor, I talked about how I couldn't fix these problems and it drove me nuts and I had to go find something different. And that's how I found stem cells, right? It's this whole origin story that gets them to get drawn in, to feel like they know you, right? And then credibility. What's the credibility you're doing ahead of time? Are you giving case studies? Are you giving interviews, testimonials? Are there books that you've written, books you've been in? Is there news about what you've done? Third-party credibility. These are things that typically you want to do before the presentation, okay? So when we would get a lead in, we're doing all of this before they ever see our presentation, okay? So it's positioning, right? For a lot of people on here probably read the book Positioning, where we know that it's how you show up, right? If you show up and you're regarded as the #1 surgeon at the Mayo Clinic for this problem, people aren't going to question you, right? So we're talking about setting it up so that your presentation, even if it may be like the perfect best thing ever, if you're positioned better from the beginning, you're going to get a better result on the end of it. So, and a lot of people miss this. They don't think about this. They just send them a presentation or do a presentation. So Next thing is connection, humanizing yourself, showing you're a normal person, not like business all the time. Talk about kids, family, hobbies, those kinds of things. Get them to like you. And everyone's heard this. Get them to know, like, and trust you. But this is how you do it. A lot of people say that, but they don't give you the building blocks of, well, how do you get them to know, like, and trust you? This is it. Talk about who you are. Get credibility. Make that connection. So credibility, what's the first thing they'll do after they see an ad or sign up, right? No, what's going to happen if they Google your name, right? Do you have an open Facebook account that has a bunch of, party pictures on it where people are going to go there and be like, I'm not going to go see this guy, or what's going on with that business? And reputation management, websites, reviews. Are you getting reviews? Or we know that with our office, especially with Stem Cell, first thing they do after they request a presentation, they're going to go look at our website and see what people say about us. See if these people are legit. Who are these people, right? They're going to go research you. And so we want to build that credibility. And, we're strategic about what they find online before they actually watch that presentation. This is going to help the presentation be more effective. So what's on your Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? I had a doctor one time that worked for me. His Instagram was horrendous. I mean, it was something that you would not want to go to this doctor if you saw the Instagram. So that was, that's the thing that you have to address. So like, this is one of the things that we would send out to our patients. And that is, my wife and I at Disney, and in this, just like normal guy, normal Dr. Scott, there's a lot more down there that we used to kind of talk about who I am and that kind of thing. But we start with, hey, you're going to get some emails and we're going to show you all these stories of all these people that have gotten better for all these different problems, building up that credibility and testimonials before they see the presentation. I want them to believe that it works before they ever look at the presentation, right? I want them to come in just trying to really solidify it in their head that, yes, this is the right thing to do. They're just kind of checking it, getting the rest of the facts, right? So we do that at the beginning. The set phase, you got to do this fast. You can't wait to do the set phase. And this has to be done right after the request information to sign up. Remember, people are bingers, right? When someone's looking for a new car, they're going to be looking at every website, reading every article, doing everything. When they want something fixed for their knee pain, they're going to read as much as they can. And so a lot of people get worried about sending out a bunch of emails and, sending out all this information. But the reality is, when they want information, they want a lot of information, just like all of us do when we get into something. And then the thing about it is too, is if you give them a bunch of information, you can kind of prevent them from going out and finding other information, right? Give them so much that you become the source for them and what they are learning about, and just give them all the resources so that you are that expert, you're the leader. So, and then don't expect them to drop what they're doing 3 days later to talk to you. You don't know how many offices I've worked with where we would get them 100 leads, right? And in 2 weeks. And like, oh yeah, like we'll contact them. We'll get to them. We'll give them a call. Like, it's over, right? It's over. Those leads are done. You have to get them something engaged immediately. If you wait, consumption goes way down. And obviously now one of the things that we do on top of email is text, right? They get that immediate text, thank you for responding. Here's a link to our website. Go check us out and learn a little bit more about what we do. I want to show you this study here real quick. And this is really important. This is an MIT study, and the link is up there at the top. But if you guys are getting online leads, you have to know this. Look at that bottom part. The odds of contacting a lead, if called in 5 minutes versus 30 minutes, drops 100 times. The odds of qualifying a lead, if called in 5 minutes versus 30 minutes, drops 21 times, right? So just contacting them will drop 100 times. And then actually qualifying them drops 21 times. You guys, how fast we do stuff, how fast we engage with people, that set phase at the beginning is crucial for your presentation to do what you want it to. But also, if you're doing a webinar, are you getting someone to sign up and then they don't really get stuff for a while, they kind of lose interest and they don't show up, and your show up rate sucks and you're mad about it. These are things to keep in mind. You've got to get them in 5 minutes. And tell you the best thing, if you have someone that can call them within that 5 minutes and say, hey, thanks for signing up, that's the best thing you can possibly do. We built a call center to actually be able to do that, because that is so important. So mindset for success. This is the second thing. Everyone talks about this, but I just want to hit on it because even though everyone talks about it, I don't know a lot of people that actually do it. Okay, so I mean that's there's a difference between knowing it and doing it. And so one of my favorite books is called Mastery, and he talks about this thing called radio voice in your head. And this was actually I did this talk at Disney, a place called the Yacht Club. So we were talking a lot about Walt Disney and whatnot, but Walt Disney called this your inner critic, right? And what's the inner critic? And this is something you don't realize that is going on. You don't realize it's not you, right? It's a mind image that we created as a child growing up. It gives us updates of what's real and true in life, and we can't control it. It's often it's all these negative messages, right? What do they say? 90% of our messages, or 80 to 90% of our messages every day are negative. 80 to 90% of our thoughts every day are negative. I mean, that's kind of scary if you think about it. And it can give you messages of fear, poor self-image, anger, lack of accomplishment, loneliness, all these different things, and also kill your creativity as well, right? So if you're going out there and you're trying to get ready to do a talk and you're scared, right? Or you feel like, oh, like, who am I to talk to these people? Who am I to tell them about this? You guys, that comes through more than anything else. And I have so many docs that we would train on these things, and I would look at their talk, watch their talk, listen to it, and you could just tell, you could hear it, you could see it on their face that something was wrong. It was not congruent with what they were saying, right? And so, although I can talk about this mindset stuff and it's like, oh yeah, that's great, I'm talking about literally working on these things and really focusing on dealing with this radio voice thing, because we don't really succeed until we get rid of that mind trash from our childhood and bad social influences that we've had. And I mean, I'll talk about the community of doctors, right? What do doctors do? Complain about insurance sucks, my location sucks, no one has money in this town, there's too much competition. I mean, it's all that stuff that I swear when doctors get together, like, it's just like this big pity party and talking about all this crap. And if you hang around those people, like, you actually might start to believe it, and it's going to hold you down. It's going to stop you. It's a radio voice. And all of a sudden that crap's going in your head, even though you don't realize this is subconscious stuff, guys. Right. So I don't want to get into too deep into that. But it's subconscious stuff going on. So all the marketing in the world can't fix negative unconscious self-image until you fix that. And it's going to kill your ability to have a perfect presentation. If that's coming through, you could have the best presentation in the world, but if you don't seem genuine and real about what you're doing, talking about, saying, I mean, it's going to come through, and people just shut down. It's just like, they'll just turn it off. So the radio voice is false advice many times that you don't notice influencing you, right? So what did I just talk about? Doctors saying that insurance sucks, location sucks. Well, that actually isn't true. And what happens is, all of a sudden, you're now getting this false advice in your head that's rolling in there that's totally untrue, but it's stopping you. It's giving you fear. It's making you feel bad about what you're doing. And when we listen to it, it results in failure and lost opportunity. So examples of this for me were when I wanted to step out of my practice as a chiropractor. I was thinking, like, oh my gosh, if I step out, like, everyone's going to leave. Right? Everyone has to see Dr. Scott, right? Like, I'm like the best chiropractor in the world. So if they don't see me, they're just going to leave and go somewhere else. Like, this is stuff that literally stopped me from getting out of my practice for years. I was on all these different boards in the city and the county and all this stuff. I was president of city council in my town. So I did a lot of seminars, and I had all these voices of, I got to do this, or this is the way it goes, and this is what you do. And I had to fight all that and realize I couldn't do stuff out of obligation anymore, and actually do what was best for my family and myself. And that's actually what helped me to step out of practice and be able to move where I am now. I'm actually in Florida, moved from Ohio, and was able to start all these clinics. I knew that my mission was so much bigger than me, but I had all this crap in my head that stopped me from making those decisions, telling myself of why it wouldn't work. And we've all heard this before. Oh, it's the story you're telling yourself that is why you're not doing it. It's so true. And we want to act like ours is like, well, no, like this is real. Like if I leave my practice, like these patients won't come back. I know that's true, right? Even though that's not just me telling me a story, that's reality. And that is the literal story. So sometimes it's taking that jump, like Steve Harvey's talked about, and different guys like that. And my mom always taught me GIGO. I don't know if you guys know what this means, but garbage in, garbage out, right? So who you're hanging out with, what you're reading, what you're looking at. I'm sure Dan's probably talked about a lot of this stuff with you guys, but people all around us fill our heads with limiting beliefs, negative beliefs, doubt. I mean, that's why I talk to Dan every week, right? That's why I have Dan as a coach, because he fills my head with the good stuff, right? He counteracts all the crap I hear from, whether it's, colleagues, you name it, right? People around us. So fill your heads with the best stuff. Our thoughts create feelings, create vibrations, create results, create feedback loops, right? So whatever you think creates a feeling inside, either fear, I don't want to do this, or this is great, I'm going to kill it, I'm going to be the best, these people want to do this, they want to work with me, they love me, I love them, I'm going to help them, which creates vibrations that come out, which creates results, right? And you guys have probably done a talk before, something where you had a weird feeling and you knew the vibrations were off and it was strange, and the results show it, right? And then when you get negative results and it's like, I don't want to do this, I wish that this worked better, right? This presentation sucks, or this sucks, or those, whatever. So negative results create negative feedback loops, right? So the better thoughts we can have create the better feelings, vibrations, results, which just it creates that momentum, right? So, and this is from that book Mastery by Tim Peering. He said, every time you go to do something big with your life, the little radio voice kicks on and tells you all the reasons why you can't do it. Okay. So that's a writer downer. It's one of my favorite quotes, because every time I do something, this happens. You get some weird feeling of, can I do that? What's going to happen if? We start thinking of every negative situation that could happen. And I know that when we said perfect presentation, 24/7 sales, you probably weren't thinking about this, but I'm telling you, for me, the presentations that I used over and over and over again, I did about an hour of pre-work on myself and getting ready for those talks, so it was the best version of myself, right? So some people may like, oh, I practiced my webinar 50 times, so I'm just going to get on and do it. Like, no, you got to get yourself psyched up, just whatever you need to do to get ready for that presentation. So before it begins, take some steps to get off to a good start, eliminate the voice. And the basic idea is getting that just relaxed and cooperative environment, so that the perspective, I say patient, could be customer, client, will neither challenge or impede the presentation and closing process, right? It's when we have negative thoughts in our head and we're exuding the weird vibrations and the strange things out, that we start to get a lot of questions, right? When you come through with that confidence, you know what you're talking about, and you're just laying it down, people just follow along, right? It's when we have the weird stuff going on that a lot more objections come up, a lot more problems come up. So that's when we get the challenges, the impeding on that process. So one of the things, so let's go through some mindset questions, like how important is what you do, right? So for me, I'm keeping people off opiates. I could be saving lives, right? I could be saving them from surgery, which could save their life, or save them from a botched surgery. I take it very serious when I do a talk. When I do a talk, I realize I might be saving someone's life. And if I screw this up, I literally could be killing somebody. Like, that's how serious I take it, right? And I don't know what you do, and I don't know how deep you've thought into that, but how serious are you about what you're doing and what it means to that person that you're talking to, how important it is for you to get your point across in confidence in a way that they want to do what you provide that service, and how dedicated are you to make it work? Are you willing to practice an hour before a presentation? I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of presentations, and guess what? Every single time I read through my script ahead of time. I had that thing down, but I didn't want to miss a word, right? Because words are important. So how hard will you work? How far will you go to make this happen? One of the things that I would do with people is I'd always say when I would go in, I'd say, you know, I love them, they love me, this is going to go great. I love them, they love me, this is going to go great. So don't say that out loud to them. Just that's just a mental rehearsal thing. But just thinking to yourself about, you know, setting up the success ahead of time. Okay. So your big idea, let's get into the big idea. Very important to have a big idea and deliver on your promise to your audience. It's very important that we can demonstrate that we understand how the world looks to the people in the room. Because, you know, when we come into a room of people that we're going to talk about stem cells, some new thing, we have to express to them that we know what they've been through. They've tried cortisone. They've tried all the pain pills. They're sick and tired of the doctor just, you know, giving them another prescription, and the pain and the discomfort when they get up, the fear of surgery, the embarrassment when they can't, you know, walk to the front pew where they used to sit at church. I mean, can we demonstrate that we understand how that world looks to them? Excuse me. So we've got to clearly define and articulate consequences and danger of not adopting the big idea, right? So what happens if they don't do it, right? Hey, look, if you don't want to do regenerative medicine and you want to do like more risky things like opiates, where there's a, you know, possibility of addiction, or, you know, a risky surgery where, you know, this can happen and this can happen. Look, that's up to you. This may not be for you, but if you want a safer, more effective opportunity, a safer, more effective treatment, this is the way to go. And I would think that if you're still sitting here right now, that, you know, and listening here about stem cells, that's the way you want to go. So let's go ahead and get that set up for you, right? So you're defining what that looks like if they don't adopt it. So you've got to talk about the rewards as well, right? You're going to be able to walk your dog again. You'll be able to go to, you know, Walmart and walk around without sitting down 18 times, right? You're going to be able to X, Y, and Z. Know the world they live in. Know the rewards that they need to get to that they really want and are desiring. But at the same time, I got real big one time on rewards, and I just love talking about how great life was going to be. And I stopped doing the negative, the fear, the consequences of not doing it. And, you know, just like Tony Robbins says, we all know it, you know, pain's a bigger motivator than you know, just a benefit, right? So make sure you're doing the pain part. Rewards are good, but the pain's more powerful. So the big idea doesn't have to be different to make a difference, right? How many books and speeches are there about thinking big, taking action, like organizing your business? You know, like how many, those big ideas are out there, and there's a million of them, and you don't have to have something unique. You really don't, as far as the concept. People just need your message, and it's your responsibility to reach those people. Because one of the things that drives me crazy is that, especially in our world with doctors and egos, right? They feel like people should just listen to them, and if they say it, they better just do it, right? Where, no, we're not entitled to any attention. We're not entitled to any audience, and we're not entitled to anyone listening or adopting anything that we say. We've got to become masters of sharing this with people. You have to earn the attention, the audience, the listener, and the adoption. And you have to earn that opportunity to change how people see the world. You guys look at, you know, these, right? Think and Grow Rich, right? It's just a big idea, right? Think and Grow Rich. And even though we know the reality isn't that you can't just sit there and think and grow rich, but it was a great concept and sold a lot of books, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Big idea. One dad did this, he's poor. One dad did this, he's super rich. It's just a big idea. It's so simple. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The E-Myth. You guys, these are all big ideas. The most successful people have just, you know, taken a big idea and moved that forward. So again, promise first, rewards. I think on this call, you guys probably don't need to know this as much as like when I talk to my doctors. A lot of this is like less educated people when it comes to this stuff, but promises like, hey, you can fix your problem and you'll avoid surgery. Kind of like there's that, right? Rewards are how much more money you're going to make. How are you going to feel different, right? How are you going to be able to move around physically? How's it going to feel getting out of bed in the morning? How's it going to feel being able to help people and, do your, what your mission is in life, the spiritual rewards and the benefit you get from the result, right? Really focusing on those things. I'm going to talk a little bit about reframing because this is really huge in everything that you do, because every person that you come to in life is going to have a certain frame of the world, right? And so that you have to change the meaning by having them see it through a different frame or reference, right? So what things mean to you always depend on what you compare and contrast them with, right? So I use the example of the yacht club that we were staying at Disney for this event. So when we stayed there, so the people staying there, it's like, if you've only stayed at a Motel 6, that is the most amazing, beautiful hotel you've ever stayed in your life. It's the best thing, best service. You can't be topped, right? But if you stayed at the Four Seasons in Ritz-Carlton, it's like, oh, it's good. It might not be Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons, but it's good, right? The way that they see that hotel is all based on their life experience. And that has to do with your product, your service, everything that you do. So as someone, talking about a medical process, as a chiropractor, they see me as a chiro, right? There's a frame that they have that, why am I talking about a medical thing? And so that's when I tell my story and say, I got so fed up that I couldn't help this guy with a degenerative knee, degenerative back, and I had to go find something different. And I did. I found a medical doctor that introduced me to this whole world. It blew my mind. And so now what I do is I hire medical doctors to get this out to the world, right? So I reframe the whole thing of, I'm a chiropractor doing stem cell, to a guy that was so frustrated he found the most amazing thing and have awesome doctors delivering this to people all around the world, right? Totally changes the frame. I do that right up front so that they really understand that, this is a professional, this is a medical office, it's not a chiropractor, it's all about the reframe. If I don't do that, the whole time they're just sitting there like, what's this chiropractor going to try to sell me? Why is a chiropractor talking about medication? Why is it I have to get rid of that right at the beginning. If I don't do that, I'm screwed. The presentation won't do what it's supposed to do because they have too much stuff. They're analyzing me as a chiro the whole time, as opposed to listening to the information. So they see traditional medicine a certain way, right? And we have to reframe the reality of what they see. They've got thoughts about stem cell medicine, and you've got to change their frame. You can't come in, you have to meet them where they are, right? You have to understand that their doctor has told them their entire life, this is how you treat pain. You do pain pills, then you do physical therapy, then you do this, right? And so you come in with that story, understanding where they are, right? So how do they have to see you, know, like, and trust you? We talked about that in the origin story. That's a big part of the reframing. That's what I do with the chiropractor part, about the medical doctor. And then what do they have to think about the world of traditional solutions to their problem to choose your service, right? This is you setting yourself apart. Like, are you sick and tired? So this is how I would do this in the medical, right? If you're sick and tired of going in for cortisone shots every 3 to 6 months and never really getting lasting relief, you're sick and tired of taking medications, you don't want another one, another cocktail, and you're kind of a little worried about the opiates, and you want a natural solution, then this is what we're going to talk about tonight. All that other stuff is good, but with this, what we can do is X, Y, and Z, right? We want to say, hey, look, if that is for you and that is what you like, that's great. But if you're looking for something different, this is what we are, and this is how it's different. So, and the last thing, so this is really huge, you guys, how they see themselves, how someone sees themselves at the end of your presentation is huge. Do they see themselves as someone who always makes a bad choice, so they can't make a decision that night, right? maybe they've made bad decisions on medical procedures in the past, and they are not going to do it. They don't want to look bad in front of their friends. They're too vain, that kind of thing. So how do they see themselves, and how do they choose action? And we actually switch this and change this all through the close that we do, and really working with their mindset to see themselves as an action taker. We encourage them to feel like an action taker. They don't sit around like everybody else. They do what they need to do to take care of themselves, to be better for themselves and their family and those around them and those that they love. Okay. And then the last thing here, how do people behave that are like you? So we're setting up, you guys have all heard this before, right? When you say the words, most people that come to our seminars want natural pain relief, right? Most people that come and want to learn about stem cells are trying to find something to get out of the medical model, right? So what we're doing is we're setting up how people behave that are most people like you that have come here, that have made this decision. And so how do you use that in your presentation to get them to feel like they're part of that group? And it helps them to make that decision at the end, because now they're thinking like, yeah, that's me. That's why I'm here. That's what I want to do, right? So let's move into story here real quick. And I've already talked about this a little bit, why we use story, and it really is to reframe. I have this in the reframing section because, it's taking people to a specific place, making them feel a certain way. I use my chiropractic story about being frustrated and finding stem cells so that I can reframe everything. So you never want to reframe. If I just came in and I said, I don't really like traditional medicine. I think that, opiates and cortisone and all those things are really dangerous. And I don't think it's a good way to treat pain. And I think you should do stem cells, right? If I do that, and, I'm a chiropractor, but, I've learned from really great doctors. So, you should listen to me on this. If I just tell somebody something, that does not reframe them, right? When you're stating facts, you're not reframing. It's when you use a story of how this happened that you're actually reframing them, because story, what it does, it puts all of our defenses down. We start to listen. We'll listen to a story. When we listen to facts, we feel like they're trying to manipulate us. We're listening to a story. We're just, cool, let's listen to the story, right? So we use it to install patterns in the way we want them to think and what we want them to focus on, right? We want them to focus on the great medical doctors, the great teams that we have in our clinics, right? So it puts them in a trance, and people in trance are open-minded. That's when they're going to, just guys, go watch the best presenters, right? Go watch your Dan Kennedys and your Joe Polishes and all these different people, Dan Kuschell, what do? They use stories, right? They are using stories, and that's how. And so I think one of the issues a lot of times is we learn this, we see it, but we don't strategically have, okay, I have to reframe them on this certain thing, right? Because let me just share this. With stem cells, it's a cash out-of-pocket expense, right? So why wouldn't they just go get cortisone and use their insurance, or go get their pain pills and use insurance? If I don't reframe that those things are dangerous, they don't work, they're not going to get them the same result, then they'll never choose ours, right? If I don't do this reframe, then it's over. And they're going to just go, oh, I can just use my insurance for that. They don't realize the damage that it's doing to them, right? So here's the formula for your story. Struggle, right? So what was my struggle? I wanted to help people with degenerative knees, degenerative hips, and backs, and I wasn't able to do it, right? So how did you get there? I've been a chiropractor for years. I love helping people. I'm doing it to change the world, get people out of pain, get them off medication. But, as I've gone through this, it's just been so difficult when I have to send someone to a surgeon. It drives me crazy, right? It's the last thing I ever want to do is send someone to surgery. I said, there has to be something. There has to be something out there. So I went on a journey, and I tried PRP. I tried hormone therapy. I tried this, I tried that, and it wasn't easy, right? And I looked at everything, every daggone thing out there, And what I found was stem cells, right? So you went on this journey. It wasn't easy. You left no stone unturned. You vetted everything, right? Talk about all the options that they have. Hey, I looked at that. It's a great thing. But the only thing I didn't like is it was this, this, and this. So I was like, there's got to be something better than that, right? So we've got to discredit. If you don't discredit those things, they'll just go back to those things, especially if they're cheaper, their insurance covers it, whatever, right? So then the last part is a surprise. That was for me. Sorry, I've been talking all weekend, guys. So I think my vocal cords are on their last leg here. So the surprise is, I couldn't believe what I found out. I couldn't believe what stem cells do. Can't believe, I mean, it's mind boggling. And, using that tone of disbelief. And I'm not saying to be dishonest here. If you don't have a product or service that really is that amazing, then find something else. Stem cells to me are ridiculously amazing. I've seen people go from, well, I'm not going to make medical claims on here, so we'll keep that out of here. But we've seen some really cool stuff, right? And so I can say this with total, honesty and like from my core, like it's freaking amazing, right? And it just is. And so you've got to, have that type of product or service. And so you guys have probably heard the old feel, felt, found, and I did this with stem cell. I know how you feel. Some of you feel a stem cell because I felt the same way too. And that is, I thought it was like from aborted babies and like, from embryos and all this stuff. But what I found out is that these are from donated umbilical cords that they literally would throw in the trash if they didn't donate them to help people like you. Isn't that crazy? So using those types of things to reveal your surprise in what you're doing with people. So humor, you definitely want to have some humor in there. And if you're not as funny as some people are, where like me, I'm not really that good of a jokester. So, I put that little video in there of meet the parents, right? That helps lighten the mood a little bit with a little bit of humor. And I'm actually going through this super fast. This is normally like an hour and a half, 2 hour presentation, but I usually have about 5 to 7 videos in here that are really, really funny. So it's always like keeping it light and moving it along. Okay. So, and you're not trying to be a stand-up comedian. Okay. Like don't try to like crack one-liners and things like that. Humor many times can be used as a pivot from your story into a big idea, right? It could come from a funny or a serious story, either one, but humor is about being effective, right? It's keeping people engaged. I forget who, Dan Kennedy would always reference a guy that said, and someone on here is going to know it, that, he asked him like, do you have to make them laugh? He's like, only if you want to make any money, right? And that's why Dan came out with this book, Make Them Laugh and Take Their Money, right? Because humor is about being effective and keeping them engaged. If people check out about every, like, what is it, like 3 to 5 minutes, and if you're not keeping some humor or something in there to like keep the mood light, and people don't stay engaged, right? So if you want to change the world through your speaking, you must use humor. I truly believe that. And starting with something positive and funny to get the audience on your side. So that's why, so comedians have the audience give a hand for the last person, right? There's like, hey, let's give it up for so-and-so. Yeah, they were great. That comedian, that local comedian that was horrible. Yeah, let's give them a hand. That was great, right? So they get them doing something positive. That literally is to help them in their act. That has nothing to do with that last person. That all has to do with that comedian getting people in a good mood for their act, right? So there's ways that you can do this in your talks and things that you can do. But when I would start my talks for my chiropractic office, I would always have like a big spine, and I would hold it up, and I would show people what it is, and I would say, does anyone know what this is? And they'd be like, oh, that's this, or I see the hip bone or this or that. I'm like, you're right. It is a spine. I promise it's not the last patient that didn't pay their bill. We're not like that in the office, and so like we just get a chuckle out of people at the beginning. It kind of brings us all together, and we have a shared experience. We're all laughing together. We all feel good. It connects and you move, right? And so the more you can do that throughout your presentation, the more people will connect and feel a shared experience with you, which is really important, right? So people need to see that you're having fun, right? People need to see that you're having fun presenting your material. So be there, focus on them, happy and engaged. It's contagious, because the other way, it's also contagious if you're not having fun, right? And so this goes all back to mindset, right? If you're fearful, if you're self-conscious, if you're not having fun, they're not having fun and they're not going to buy. Okay. That's huge. If they're not having fun, man, they are not going to buy. They're going to be analytical, logical mind, thinking about every word you're saying, and they're not in buying mode. Okay. So that's why this is so huge. It can be really effective with your crowd. But again, using it to pivot is really great. And so what I did is I used to tell this story, and I think I have it here, a story about snorkeling. And I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's too long, but it's a story about when my wife and I went snorkeling the first time. And I get people laughing because we go out there. My wife tells me on the way out to the boat, she doesn't think she can swim. And so now we're going to snorkel. I don't know if my wife can swim. Like we when the boat stops, I get sick. I'm about to throw up. I have to run and get off the boat. Then finally my wife gets in the boat. She can't swim. She sucks in water. She ends up having to go back on the boat. So we spend the next 3 hours. I'm in the water. I can't get on the boat. She's on the boat. She can't get back. And so it's like this whole crazy story. Everyone's laughing. And I said, and so this is the pivot, right? I dropped my tone. I was like, this is something that happens all the time in life. You look at this beautiful brochure. Everyone tells you how amazing it's going to be, all these beautiful fish you're going to see, and you think you're going out to this great experience, or you're hiring this marketing firm that's going to be perfect and get you all these patients, or you're going to this doctor and they're going to fix all your problem. But what ends up happening is you end up feeling like you're underwater, just like my wife. You feel like you can't breathe. And is there anyone here that feels like they're still underwater? Well, tonight we're here to throw you the life raft and get you out of that water. Tonight, what we're going to talk about is something different, right? So we use humor, we get them laughing, I tell the story, and then I just totally drop my tone and I pull them into an emotional way to get them to think and feel. I want them to feel like, yes, I want this. I want to hear what you're talking about. I'm underwater. I need help, right? So I basically did an inventory of all my stories and found that one to be the best. And so you got to go back and think about stories in your life. And usually it's the ones like that are crazy, or like bad stuff happens to you that you can look back and laugh on. Those are some of the best for using these stories. So be very strategic about that. And this is a way to get them seeing the world in a different way from when they met you. When I go down and drop my tone into that, they're like, yeah, like I'm underwater. I totally see what you're saying, right? And it's just, the story did it. I didn't have to tell them. The story got them emotionally involved to do that. You got them to look at the problem from a totally new perspective because they're looking at it through the eye of the story, not in you bringing in some random perspective you're trying to force on them, okay? So next thing is the callback. This is the second to last thing. We're almost done. Put a nice bow on everything you just heard, right? So you're going to wrap it up. So you're referencing something you mentioned earlier in your talk. One of the things that we do in our talk is we keep talking about the power that made the body is the power that heals the body. The power that made the body is the power that heals the body. That's what stem cell is all about. So this is kind of like a big idea wrapped into it. And it's going to tell your audience you're done too. Have you guys ever had the awkward silence of a talk where either it was you or someone else where they get done and nobody knows if it's done and they're like, do I clap? And there's just this awkward silence and then it's just weird. This prevents that and actually gets you an ovation. It actually gets people to clap for you, right? So you do this in the close right after you're done. So you don't want them sitting there thinking are they done? Has she wrapped it up or what's going on? So here's a callback example. So if you believe as I do that the power that made the body is the power that heals the body, and you're tired of covering up serious issues with cortisone or pain pills or even getting surgery, then make the decision today to go a different direction. Let the power that made your body heal your body. We look forward to meeting you to see if regenerative medicine is right for you and if it may even change your life for the better forever. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in the office. It's done. And all of a sudden it's yeah, it pulls it into an ovation. So you don't have that weird thing. And I'm telling you, you get more signups when people are like, yeah, like they're in a good mood, they're clapping. Awkward silence will kill your sales. So you want to do a callback to get them all like energized, feeling excited about what this can do for them, and avoiding, right, the fear. And you saw the fear and the benefit all in that paragraph, all wrapping it into the theme that we've had through the whole thing. Okay. Rehearsal, the next thing, which is also the last thing. If you're not closing 50% or more, like at a live seminar or in consults that you're doing face to face, rehearsal is something you really need to implement and really get this down. Rehearsal is not practice, right? One of my, I'm a guitar player, and my teacher told me, Scott, practice does not make perfect. Do you guys know what makes perfect? Perfect practice makes perfect, right? If you go and start, shooting a ball like in the wrong way, some weird free throw thing, you're not going to get the result of what Steph Curry does on a regular basis to be one of the best shooters in the NBA, right? Perfect practice makes perfect. So rehearsal is getting it perfect, right? This is forming the whole thing. So, and you know what, I almost equate this to Russell Brunson talks a lot about in his perfect webinar thing of like doing it for a year before it's good. He's really talking about rehearsal is what he's doing, right? So practice is what you do after you're really good at it, right? So we're not worried about practice right now. We're talking about rehearsal and doing something over and over to make it perfect, right? So you have the perfect presentation by the time you're done. So has anyone here ever seen a TED Talk that's changed you, that like really got to you? I mean, I've got several that have really, that move you in different ways, right? Have you ever seen a keynote, whether it was, Steve Jobs or a commencement, at a graduation? I think we've all seen those types of things before. Now, and I would say this to my group of doctors. How many doctors do you think are doing presentations that are that powerful? Do you think that people are moved at the end of the doctor? Because what are the doctors typically doing? This is the nervous system, and what happens is the afferent pathway, it does this, this, and this. So when I do stem cells, it will create the efferent effect on the, like, they literally think people want to know that. They think that's important, and like that's actually what they're going to do at a seminar. But people don't rehearse and really get down and figure out what people want and need. Just like these TED Talks are talks that are rehearsed and put together. We've probably all know people that have done TED Talks, and how they're coached to do these things. Like they coach them to get good at these, right? So will people remember anything you say if it's not something that's inspiring? If it's not something that, gets you energized, makes you feel a certain way, right? We remember things when we feel them, right? Our biggest memories are times in our life that we felt something, right? So if you can get them to feel something, they'll remember what you say. If you don't get them to feel anything, they will not remember. So being a big Disney, I'm actually probably a bigger Star Wars guy, and it's all the same company now, but you guys may recognize this. This is when they got back together to do Star Wars again, right? Episode 7, when they're starting the whole franchise back up. And what they do in Hollywood is they'll do a table reading, they'll do content mapping, they'll do improv, rewriting, invited rehearsal, open rehearsal, dress tech, and they do all of these things like a table reading. All they're doing, I'm going to ask you if you've ever done this. Have you ever just sat down with your script of your talk, of your webinar, and just got used to saying the words, not trying to like present it, not trying to put any inflection on it, but just get used to saying the words? Does it even work? Not performing. And if you mess up words, go back, say them again, not getting upset or anything like that. Just getting used to saying the words so you can say the words, right? This is what an actor does to put on a performance that gets you to forget that they are Brad Pitt, forget that they are Harrison Ford, and feel what they are putting out so that you are taken into a world with them. This is what it takes to do that. So you want to see if words sound like you. If it doesn't, you'll need to change it, right? You're literally just figuring out the words. Do they feel right? Does it feel like me, right? So that's table reading. Do that make sure you have a script. Just read through your presentation, get it down so you can say it right. Then you're still working on the table. We take your content, find the words that are your operative words, the ones that communicate the meaning, right? Those are the words you need to emphasize. We all know that the emphasis it makes all the difference, right? If I say, find the words that are your operative words, right? Or find the words that are your operative words, find the words that are your operative words, right? That all says something totally different. Have you literally gone line through line in your presentation to find those operative words so that you're hitting the exact right ones that you need to hit, right? So find the words you emphasize and change your tone with those, right? Beat is part of this, right? Power of the pause. A lot of people figure out where the pauses are going to be the most, where they're going to be the most powerful is really what you want. Powerful pause. So next thing, improv and rewriting. You start to free it up here after the first two steps. You allow new things to come out, right? You've got the words down, you've got the operative words, and you kind of feel the tone and the beat. And now you're gonna start going through it. You're gonna start going through it, starting to practice, and you start to feel like, oh man, this part here, it feels like there's something missing, right? Or, oh, I need to add this in. That's when you're starting to change it around. And you may hear new words coming out of your mouth. You're starting to improv. Oh, sounds better if I say it this way, right? And record yourself doing this. Record yourself and watch, right? Most painful thing to do. When I started in chiropractic, I went to a training with Dan and my buddy, Jeremy Weiss. And Jeremy and I went to this thing where they recorded us. And we had to watch ourselves, and 20 other doctors would criticize us and how we were doing in our presentation. We did this day in and day out with every patient. And that's how I got good at what I was doing, is because it was recorded and it was criticized, and we figured out the perfect presentation that we did. So record yourself, make sure, have other people watch it and criticize you, right? Get other people's opinion. We're really not good at criticizing ourselves. And then get people in front of you for feedback sooner rather than later. Get 1 to 4 people, choose them wisely, right? This could be Skype, it could be Zoom, something like this, but you want to be specific about what you want them to look for, right? So if I say, this is one, you guys probably have heard this. I say a lot, so you've probably noticed that. But and I would say minimizing things. I would say, it's kind of a big problem with your knee, right? Well, kind of minimizes the whole thing. No, you have a serious issue with your knee, and that needs to be fixed, right? So what words are you using subconsciously? And ask for them to look at those things. And then also, hey, was there ever a time when you zoned out and then you came back, right? When you started talking about rehearsal, I kind of zoned out. I was like, this, and then I can go back and change that, right? Because I know that is a spot that's maybe a little bit boring for people. Then open rehearsal, that's when you're getting 5 to 50 people, whether it's a Zoom call, live, invite the larger audience. If they're your target demographic, it's even better. What I did for this when I started was I went to all my old patient base, people that knew me, like me, trust me already, and I invited them to come learn about stem cells. So I got in front of 35 people that were people that knew me, like me, trust me. They were my target demographic. They all had pain, right? And your patient-based friends, old clients, all good for this. Last thing, dress tech, just getting it down, wearing what you're going to wear while you do it. And you might be wearing a headset during the webinar. Do it all just like you're going to do it, right? So that you know exactly what it's going to feel like. And, if you're moving around, different shoes, what that feels like. I mean, little things like that make a big difference in what you do. So make sure you wear what makes you feel the best, because remember, this is about what you're exuding, your thoughts, feelings, those vibrations coming off. And many times what you're wearing can make a huge difference in that. I don't know if the people that work from home, so many of us now work from home, I know people that still dress up in a suit and tie because it makes them feel a certain way when they're working, right? Some people are just fine in pajamas or whatever, right? But people feel a different way, right, with what they're wearing. So that's up to you. What makes you feel the best to get the best response of what you're doing? So to have the perfect presentation like Billy Mays, Chuck and Christy, George, you want to have a great pre-event. You have mental preparation to get your mindset right. Have an awesome big idea. You push all the way through. You reframe all the way through using stories to change the way that they think, to get them feel and act and excited about what you're doing, using humor, whether it's an audio clip, a video, if you don't have your own, but it's better if you can do it. For me, I use videos and things. Doing the callback, closing it up, letting them know this is done, get them excited. This is what happens if you don't do it. This is what happens if you do it. And then make sure you rehearse this thing, get it down, really go through it, structure it well, so you're saying the right things at the right time, and you're not just winging it. So many people get on and wing presentations, and it could be a great presentation, and they just botch it because they say something wrong or they put it in the wrong place or whatever. You guys do this and you can have the perfect presentation. So there's that. I'm all set, Dan.
That's amazing. How many of you guys would agree? That's amazing. Woo! Yes, sir. In fact, let's give Dr. Scott some immediate feedback before we do Q&A. Let's give him a rating on a low of 1 to a high of 10. Hint, 12 or higher. Anyway, 1 to 10 for Dr. Scott and his presentation, how to do a perfect presentation, the 24-hour, 7-day a week to get new patients and clients. That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right.
Look at that. Look at that.
Thanks for listening to this episode of GrowthToFreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com.